Week 2. This week we're going to look at AR, ER, and IR verbs. In order to talk about activities, you need to use verbs. Verbs express actions or states of being. In English, the infinitive is the base form of the verb. In English, the infinitive is preceded by the word to, for example, to study or to be. The infinitive in Spanish is a one-word form and can be recognized by its endings, either AR, ER, or IR, and they're all conjugated in different ways that we'll look at today. For example, an AR verb like estudiar, meaning to study, an ER verb, comer, meaning to eat, or an IR verb, escribir, meaning to write. In this first lesson, we'll look at the regular forms of AR verbs, then look at ER verbs and IR verbs. To create the forms of most regular verbs in Spanish, simply drop the infinitive endings, AR, ER, IR. You then add to the stem endings that correspond to different subject pronouns. This diagram will help you visualize the verb conjugation. To begin, as I said, first with the infinitive. For example, estudiar, bailar, trabajar. Drop the ending. We just have the stem, for example, estudi, and then we have the conjugated form in which we add the endings that we'll look at in a moment. Por ejemplo, yo estudio, meaning I study. Tú bailas, you dance. Nosotros trabajamos, we work. The conjugation of AR verbs are as follows. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Once again, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. These correspond to the subject pronouns. Yo ends in o. Tú, as. Él, usted, a. Nosotros, amos. Vosotros, ais. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, an. Now, for example, let's say we had a verb like estudiar, meaning to study. First thing we do is take off the AR. We're left with the stem. For example, yo estudio, tú, él, usted. And then we add the endings. Yo estudio, I study. Tú estudias, you study. Él, usted estudia, he or she or you formal study. Nosotros estudiamos, we study. Vosotros estudiáis, y'all study. Ellos, ellas, ustedes estudian, they or you all study. Now we also have, here's a list of common AR verbs. Bailar, to dance. Buscar, to look for. Caminar, to walk. Cantar, to sing. Cenar, to have dinner. Comprar, to buy. Contestar, to answer. Conversar, to chat. Desayunar, to have breakfast. Descansar, to rest. Desear plus infinitive, to desire or to wish. Dibujar, to draw. Enseñar, to teach. Escuchar, to listen to. Esperar plus infinitive means to wait for. It could also mean to hope. Estudiar, to study. Explicar, to explain. Hablar, to talk or to speak. Llegar, to arrive. Llevar, to carry. Mirar, to look at or to watch. Necesitar plus infinitive, to need. Practicar, to practice. Preguntar, to ask like a question. Preparar, to prepare. Regresar, to return. Terminar, to end or to finish. Tomar, to take, to drink. Trabajar, to work. And viajar, to travel. A few notes about these verbs. Unless referring to a person, Spanish verbs buscar, escuchar, esperar, and mirar do not need to be followed by prepositions as they do in English. For example, busco la tarea already means I'm looking for the homework. In English, we put to look for, which is different than to look, right? But in Spanish, buscar already means to look for. Same thing with escuchar. We in English say listening to the music. But in Spanish, it's not necessary to add that preposition. Escucho la música, I'm listening to the music. Or espero el autobús, I'm waiting for the bus. Or miro la pizarra, I'm looking at the blackboard. So as I said, buscar, to look for, escuchar, to listen to, esperar, to wait for, and mirar, to look at, do not need to be followed by prepositions as they do in English. Let's also look very quickly at the present tense of ER and IR verbs. The endings are as follows. For ER verbs, we have o, es, e, hemos, eis, en. And for IR verbs, it's nearly identical to the ER verbs. It's just a few things change. Just the nosotros and vosotros. O, es, e, imos, is, en. Also, do notice the accent mark here over the vosotros form. In all verbs, including the AR verb, there's an accent mark over that form. And as I said before, you might notice that ER and IR verbs have the exact same endings except the nosotros and vosotros forms. Por ejemplo, nosotros comemos, nosotros escribimos. O vosotros coméis, vosotros escribís. Some common ER and IR verbs are as follows. Aprender a, to learn. Beber, to drink. Comer, to eat. Comprender, to understand. Correr, to run. Creer, to believe. Deber, plus infinitive, should. Leer, to read. Also some IR verbs. Abrir, to open. Asistir a, to attend. Compartir, to share. Decidir, to decide. Describir, to describe. Escribir, to write. Recibir, to receive. Vivir, to live. So English uses three sets of forms to talk about the present tense. We have the simple present, for example, Paco works. The present progressive, Paco is working. And the emphatic progressive, rather the emphatic present, Paco does work. In Spanish, the simple present can be used in all three cases. So note that this one tense in Spanish has all these meanings in English. Paco trabaja en la cafetería. Paco works in the cafeteria. Paco is working in the cafeteria. It could also be Paco does work in the cafeteria. In Spanish and English, the present tense is also sometimes used to express future action. For example, Marina viaja a Madrid mañana. Marina travels to Madrid tomorrow. Or Marina will travel to Madrid tomorrow. Or Marina is traveling to Madrid tomorrow. Notice that the Spanish simple present tense has many meanings inside of it. They can kind of mean all these different sort of forms in the present tense that we use in English. And you might want to literally translate Paco is working in the cafeteria or Paco does work, but just know that the simple present tense means it already, and we don't need these auxiliary helping verbs and things as we do in English. Also, an important thing to note is when two verbs are used together with no change of subject, they're immediately adjacent. The second verb is generally in the infinitive. For example, deseo hablar con el señor Díaz. I want to speak with Mr. Díaz. I want, deseo, to speak, hablar, the second one being in the infinitive, with Mr. Díaz. To make a sentence negative, the word no is placed before the conjugated verb. In this case, no means not. Alicia no desea bailar ahora. Alicia doesn't want to dance right now. Spanish speakers often omit subject pronouns because the verb endings indicate who the subject is. In Spanish, subject pronouns are used for emphasis, clarification, or contrast. For example, ¿qué enseñan? What do they teach? I know that the form of the verb is in the they because I can look at the ending and notice that an corresponds to ellos, and without hearing the word ellos, know that they're talking about they. ¿Qué enseñan? What do they teach? Or ¿qué enseñan ellos? Could be, what do they teach? ¿Quién desea trabajar hoy? Who wants to work today? Notice there is no subject pronoun because it's omitted, given that we have the conjugation of the verb, which means the third person simple. Who wants to work today? Or ella enseña arte y él enseña física. She teaches art and he teaches physics. In this instance, they added the subject pronouns for clarification, or it could be also for contrast. She teaches art and he teaches physics. Notice the verb is the same though. Enseña, enseña. Or yo no deseo trabajar hoy. I don't want to work today. That's more for emphasis. You can add the yo there to kind of, in English we do it with our voice. So I don't want to work today. Yo no deseo trabajar hoy. But notice that it's not necessary because deseo or no deseo already means I don't want to without the yo, which is a huge difference from English.